So who is supposed to be the father on How I Met Your Father? I have a theory. Let's take a closer look. So right off the bat, I want to eliminate Jesse from the mix. The main reason is that I think that he's too obvious a choice. You know, when you go and look back at the finale of How I Met Your Mother, regardless of whether or not you like it seemed like the intention there was to subvert the audience expectations, not go on a route that was too obvious. So to me, the idea that it would be this guy who just seems to have an immediate compatibility with, and they constantly have this kind of will they, won't they thing throughout the series, that's too obvious a choice for me. And that's not to say that her and Jesse may not be soulmates, they very well be the case, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be the father of her child. For me, there's a very key episode in determining who is the father of the five main options that we have, and that's the Valentine's Day episode from Season 2. At the end of this episode, there's a line from Sophie's son in the future, where he says, when referencing the father, that he wasn't even in the story, that he was just told. Now, at first glance, it might seem like this might mean that the father has to be Ian, because he's the only guy who wasn't really in the episode. Although, there is another person who, although he may have been in the episode, may have not been in the story that the son was just told. Because here's the thing. Do you think that when you sit down and watch an episode of How I Met Your Mother or How I Met Your Father, that Sophie or Ted is sitting there telling their children or child every single detail that we see on screen? No, the stories are just used as a framing device to then go to the flashback and we see what happened back then. So is it very much possible, if not likely, that Sophie did not sit there and describe to her son a flashback that occurred in a Sid subplot that Sophie wasn't even there for? I'd say yes, that's very much likely. And between Ian and Drew, I think it's got to be Drew. Because here's the thing, Ian is a guy who is very much black, and the actor who does the voice of the son in the future is a guy who is very much white. Now, I think it is possible, maybe, that this is something that they just did to not make it too obvious. If they made the actor a guy who was biracial or half black, that may have made it too obvious, and maybe that they were intending in the last episode to swap that guy out with some guy who was biracial. But although I think just based on the information that we currently have, I'd say that the father is Drew.